I mean, it was really hard. I felt like I was losing my mind. It was very challenging just to be that isolated. I'm at the far end of like being an extrovert. And I just suddenly had this epiphany of like, oh my gosh, like alcohol wasn't the problem. It was like whatever feelings that were coming up that would make me drink that much. Like that was the problem.
Yo, I'm Bryce the Third.
And I'm Liz McKean.
And you are now tuned in to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. Here we dive into all the recovery stories from around the world.
And we talk about all pathways because there's no one right way to recover.
If you've been with us for a while, you know how powerful stories are. So get ready for your community to get just a little bigger today.
We are so glad that you're here. Let's get into the show.
And we're on. What if we started the episode like that? I'm actually about to keep that. Yep. Liz, what's up? We're keeping it just like that. Liz said we never started the show like and we're on. And now she can't
from
say
New
that.
York.
She can't say that anymore. Liz,
right.
What's the deal?
Well, as per usual, you've proven me wrong once again. I don't know, man. Got a pretty chilly day here and drinking my 8,000th cup of tea and really happy to be here with you. How you doing?
What kind of tea you sipping on?
Chamomile.
Chamomile. Turn down. I love it.
Watch out. It's all right. I'm not driving.
That's what's up. Yeah, it's not as chilly this way. It's like summertime here. It's like 40 degrees, man. It's yeah, the snow's beginning to melt, and I'm sure it'll be back with a vengeance in a couple of days. But, 40 degrees in Detroit, y'all, is like, I am doing cartwheels and jumping jacks with joy. So enjoying my life. Yep. This is a conversation we've been kind of plotting and planning on having for a while. I'm excited to talk to our guest today. Liz, would you like to do the honors of
I'd love to. Yeah. And anybody who is in the Phoenix app and in the Rise, Recover, Live podcast space has probably seen this person's name because she is very active in our app, which is amazing. Today we have the very lovely Erin McIntosh. And Erin has been sober for 12 years, a lot of snaps, deeply passionate about bringing community together. And I want to just emphasize what she emphasized when she sent us this, that unity is the big part of community. And I love that. To have fun without the use of drugs or alcohol. She loves getting high on life. After leaving a 12-year career, Erin launched her own business, WOOP Life. I was really excited to say it like that, where she hosts sober, silent disco dance parties paired with authentic, relating connection games. Really excited to hear about those. She's also about to launch Thrive Alive, which is her first festival, and that's an inspiring, sober celebration of life and veganism. She loves the Phoenix, been working hard to grow the Phoenix community in Miami. So if you're in Miami right now, this is your sign to get active with the Phoenix. And we're just so delighted to have her here. So Erin, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. I am quite fabulous today. It is a fabulous day.
You are fabulous. And I feel like we're sitting here talking about the cold and the warm, in the 40-degree warm in Bryce's case. But I believe you are in a much sunnier place, if I'm not mistaken.
It is true. I am in the sunny Miami, Florida, which Florida just got snow last week, which is crazy, but luckily not down here in Miami.
That would be really great. Yeah. To be that down south, that would be pretty incredible. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we're so connected because I'm, from Rochester, New York, and lived in Tampa for however many years, and now I'm back. And you are from Saratoga, which is also upstate New York, and now you're in Miami. So we're just like, little connected, by little heartstrings.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're so happy to have you here. And I know that, you shared some of your recovery story when we first scheduled this. And I love how unique every individual's journey is. And you, I feel like, are similar to some others that we've talked to that always blows my mind, where it's like you had some sobriety under your belt and then you decided, oh, I'm going to actually be nice to myself now and actually do the things that are going to make my life happy. So what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I guess because when I quit drinking, I did it. I just did it. I finally made the decision and I was like, this really doesn't benefit me. It's a whole, of course, a story. There's always a story. But I finally made that decision and I had just a really great roommate, actually, who if at any point I was like, oh, man, I want to go out and get wasted. And he'd be like, nope, you don't need it. You don't need it. And kind of like just pull me back. And ground me a little bit. And then it was always fine. You know, it's always like a 5-10 minute feeling and then it passes. And so I had him, an amazing roommate, plus other friends. I was living in Hawaii at the time. Aloha, which changed my life. And I felt like being there, I don't know, it's just such a beautiful, vibrant, rich, like it makes you want to be your best self. I don't know, like as an island, as a energy. I don't know how to describe it. And it kind of called me to move there. And I quit drinking and I gave up. I was mostly vegan for several years, but I gave up that last like 1% of like, here's a free cookie. Is there eggs in this? So I kind of just went all in 100% vegan, 100% sober. And I thought like, oh, I quit the substance. My problem was when I would drink, I could never stop. So it wasn't that I was like a daily drinker. It was just like as soon as it got in my system, I'm just like, yeah, let's go. And just, I'd black out every single time. Hundreds of blackouts, hundreds. And so I just had this revelation. I quit, but then I just thought like, oh, I quit the substance. Everything's perfect and fine and dandy. And several years went by until I was actually like I was living in Boston. I had a basement apartment. My first time my whole life, like living alone, and COVID happened and I'm stuck and I have COVID. I had it very early, like right, right in the beginning before, um, but right in, like, the scary, scary beginning when we didn't really
Yeah.
understand anything, and so I got it, and I was in that 14-day quarantine thing in my basement. I couldn't leave, like, I was very much following the rules because I just felt like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna, like, hurt everyone if I leave the building," so I stayed in my apartment for 14 days except to go get my test, and then I just I mean, it was really hard. I felt like I was losing my mind. It was very challenging just to be that isolated. I'm at the far end of, like, being an extrovert, and I just suddenly had this epiphany of, like, "Oh my gosh, like, alcohol wasn't the problem." It was, like, whatever feelings that were coming up that would make me drink that much, like, that was the problem. But I didn't have that. I mean, that was, like 2012 is when I quit. So, yeah, that was, what, 8 years of just in, like, la-di-da-di land. And people would talk about the work, "You gotta do the work and this." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm sober and I hike all the time and I'm happy." But I still definitely had and it's still not, I'm still not healed of all things, but, like, just had that thing in me that was, like, feeling like I'm not lovable or I'm not worthy. Um and, like, it didn't matter if I, like, blacked out and climbed up the tower on some building at 4 in the morning, I could potentially fall off because nobody cared enough that if something happened to me, it wouldn't matter. So I just had all these, these feelings that were coming up when I was just sitting alone in my basement, and then I just started searching online, and I found, like, all these different Zooms because that was when Zoom, really took off, and I think at first I did, like, a couple AA, I did Dharma recovery, smart recovery, but everything was just on Zoom. So I just started to dabble, but I didn't dive in still, but I started to kind of just have these realizations and dabble. And then like a year and a half ago, I was searching just like I'm always just excited about searching sober things. And then the Phoenix popped up and I was like, what is this? I'm like, this is a cool group and they do fun things together. And I'm really active and I love sports and people. And so I just started just trying to find events, although I was in Miami. I'm in Miami. They don't have any. So it was mostly Zooms. And then I found you guys and your podcast. And I've listened so many times. I want to thank you both because it's been such like a blessing and a fun. Like I just feel like I'm like putting my family in my ears, even though we had never met. It was just like this, like, I don't know, just something like this cool connection that I don't know, just something special. And so then I just was like, okay, I need to start something in Miami. I want to like grow this, whatever this is, and also like do more of this work, even though it's hard. Like I have to figure it out and I have to do more of it. So
Uh,
the Phoenix has just been such a cool blessing that I didn't, I love that it's like all pathways to recovery. It's like, and it's all kinds of addictions too, or it's just people that want to just be healthy and don't, it's not so regimented of like this one way to get sober or be sober. So
uh, yeah,
yeah.
no, it's amazing that these resources exist, and not just saying it because I'm a part of creating it and getting it out there, but like I I wish that something like this existed when I was Google searching, 11 years ago, trying to figure out, where the communities, what's going on with me,
Hmm.
especially like when it comes to the pod, like, like you said, this is another form of community. You hear a story that may be so similar to yours. It's like, oh, I'm not uniquely, like, terminally unique, but you might hear something so far away from your experience. It's like, oh man, like the world is bigger than I thought it was. But there's still this commonality of this experience that we've had.
Hmm.
And I know that somebody listening to this episode uh, has had the experience of being extroverted, and you say you would land on the far end of extroversion, and so with
I believe
COVID,
that.
with COVID kind of with COVID kind of sitting you down, do you feel like before COVID sat you down, you had ever sat down before to have like that level of contemplation to see
Mm,
and have that revelation that, okay, it wasn't just like stopping the alcohol?
right. That's a good question. I mean, I'd like to think yes, but I'm very active. Like,
Mm,
I'd love to be like, I've definitely been quiet, but not to that degree. I've been like, I'm hiking alone for several hours and doing things, meditating. I do have my like yoga teacher training, my acro yoga teacher training, and I dove into that world for a while. But, but still, even sitting still, if anybody knows me, they would probably be like, yeah, Erin hates to sit still. Like, I like
mm,
I like to move. And so maybe that was like a weird gift of COVID to like sit my booty down and
no,
like really feel some things. And yeah, because I probably hadn't been still, not like that. Certainly never like without human
Yeah.
connection for 2 full weeks ever.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like, COVID was an interesting thing. It still is an interesting thing, but they've coined the term "clean on the screen." There's a lot of people that got so sober throughout
Mm,
that time. Me, I had I went through like a really big like life change. Like it was a breakup, but like a
mm,
relationship that I was in before I entered into recovery, and that was like a foundational part of like my existence. And it happened like right before like COVID started hitting. So where I
mm.
was planning on it being like a hot boy summer, like it was like, nah, it wasn't that. You got to sit down, wasn't no meet no new people and not like that. Like, and I had to like sit in it and process it in a way that maybe I wouldn't have if it wasn't for COVID. But that led to like me building tools and cultivating wisdom that otherwise I wouldn't have had.
Mhm.
But I know, like, I just want to pull out like the extroversion because I be on the move, and now I don't. It's interesting now, like post that lockdown, I really have to be intentional about finding time to reflect and sit down.
Mm,
Cause the more things that I get into, the less I really have to sit down for anything.
right.
And cultivating a relationship with those questions, like, well, am I healthy? I'm doing a lot of stuff in a lot of like healthy spaces, but like, am I healthy as I've defined it? What does
Mhm.
that look like? And having that conversation with myself, like it takes a level of intention. And so what does that conversation look like for you today? How do you tap into that conversation these days, now that there's like nothing sitting you down?
Ooh. Uh, I mean, I guess being in Miami has been a little hard for me to find a lot of community, so I've just found that naturally I have spent more time alone,
Mm,
um, because I'm also being very choosy with my time and who I'm, like, I guess, energetically, like, spending time with, and, I've moved a lot in my life, and that means always, like, constantly making new friends and needing to create more space, and, I kind of got to a point where, like, I can't be a really great friend to a billion people, like, I just can't be, and it's important for me to show up for people and, like, be a good friend, so I think, like, in general, I just haven't spent as I've been more alone, I think, in Miami, even though I have a
mm,
partner and, he's with me, we spend a lot of time together, and then I have a really great bestie that I made down here, and I see her a lot, but she also has kids. I don't have kids or anything yet, so, um, it has
y-
been interesting. Yeah, it's almost like another force, like, "Oh, you're in this new place," and working for myself for most of what I do. I don't have a big company that it's like I
yeah.
worked for Whole Foods for a really long time, constantly making new friends,
Mm,
like-mindedness, where here it's like, "Oh, you're just starting a business and you don't know that many people?" Good, like that's
So I'm
silly
super
maybe.
curious too, like especially as somebody who like my only reference point for Miami is like Bad Boys 2 and Scarface.
Mm.
Like I feel like it's a poppin' city. So why
That's
do
where you
you
should have done your Hot Boy summer.
Yeah, for real.
why do you feel like it's been hard for you to find community in Miami? Like what's the deal with Miami?
Um,
Or is it just the newness of it?
I don't know. I find that I'm always in this struggle of like a lot of my friends, a lot of communities I'm a part of I'm like I'm a vegan, sober hippie girl, so it's like I often am in communities where people do a lot of plant medicine and different ceremonies and have different experiences there, but it comes up a lot. And there's a lot of like just cannabis all the time and things that are like challenging for me. I feel I don't like,
Mm.
I prefer to be, I guess, with people that are just in the same, s- s- I don't know,
Yeah,
dimension. I don't know what you want to call it. If
yeah.
you're on,
Yeah.
there's
An
nothing wrong.
alignment.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like if people want to go on trips and do their thing, like that's fine. But I've noticed it does happen a lot here, like in kind of like the spiritual community,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't find myself attracted to those types of environments.
Hmm.
So, I don't know. I and maybe that's me being judgmental.
I don't
I
think
don't
it
think it's
is,
being
Aaron.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel
No.
like it's the gift and the curse of really getting to know yourself, and where it's like, okay, well, I know this is like, already like we've been talking for, what, 15 minutes, and I feel like you've talked like I just feel like I know parts of you, things that are important to your identity that are important to you.
Hmm.
Um in a way that just feels very natural, and that's so beautiful. And also that can be isolating, especially when you're like, no, and I also know like what communities and what situations make me feel safe, and you're so good at seeking them out that you found them. So like in all these different places you've lived, and even
Hmm.
online, whether it's with the Phoenix or finding a podcast that you relate to. And you just made me cry a little bit when you said that you felt that way about listening to us, 'cause, oh my god, thank you. But just the fact that you know what it looks like and what it feels like and what you want,
Hmm.
and you're not going to put yourself in situations where you don't want to be there. And that doesn't mean you're judging. I think that's actually that's actually an acceptance of like, we're all so different. And, you just know who the people are you feel comfortable with.
Acceptance coupled with self-awareness.
Yeah. And
and,
it
Right.
does make it harder, but it also makes it more authentic, I think, when you find what it is you're
and
looking for.
and I'm curious as to like
Right.
how much of a role that plays in your inclination or desire to create spaces and community
Yeah.
that are in alignment with what it is that you desire.
Be the change.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, you can't find it, you have to build it. And
Yeah.
it's whoosh, it is not easy, like setting up, spending hours and hours and hours and days of work, and then, four people show up to an event and I'm like, okay, like I've gone through so many things. Like maybe people just don't want sobriety in Miami, and like forget it. I'm moving back to Hawaii, or I'm gonna. I definitely notice my like flight, fight, or freeze tends to be the
Mm,
flight kind, and so like
Mm-hmm.
mm,
my inside, they're like, okay, get out of here, like try something new. But then I'm like, no, like I said, I wanted to commit for a little while and dive in and like put some roots in. I honestly feel like Miami chose me. I didn't anticipate moving here. It was kind of like this crazy thing that happened, and I am here I am. And so I think that yeah, I think I need to just do more, get out there more, meet more people, um and not be so attached to like, I guess I'm speaking about two different things, but like as far as the events go, like not be so attached to, four people come, that's okay. Maybe that was who was supposed to come. It's amazing and beautiful, and not being so attached to like, oh, I'm failing because only four people showed up. But instead, like,
mm.
wow, we had four people plus myself plus a volunteer. So six of us got to gather together and celebrate life and have fun and connect. And I think I just have to get out there more, do more, and also find, like, I used to do a lot of improv when I was in Boston. I'm like, I need some more laughter. I need to
Mm.
find like people that can just open up in that way. And I also just love like all the authentic relating things that I teach and lead and go to, like just the depth. Like I wanted to get deep. I'm like, let's talk about all the like really deep, crazy things. Like
and
I
and
love.
and there's gonna be people that even though it's like, you're scaring me. I just said hi. What are you talking about? And those not my people. Like, cause
Yeah.
like immediately,
Right.
I've been asked multiple times, like, how you're able to get so vulnerable? Like, and I do a lot of stuff from stage, and it's like, how do you, like, why you share da 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 da? And like, how do you do that? And it's like, well, it's kind of like an antenna to attract the people that I belong around. And I mean, I think a side effect is the repellent to people who aren't like, can't handle that level of like the vulnerability. But
Right.
yeah, I don't really focus on the repellent nature. I focus on like those one or, like you said, those one or, I can't be the best friends with everybody in the world, but those one or two people that got the signal, showed up and was like, yo, I heard you. And then we tapped in. Like, that's what it's
Right.
for. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a
and
great,
you,
yeah.
Bryce, I've seen you, Bryce, show up. I've been lucky to be in some of the rooms where Bryce has been on stage, and I can say from personal experience and also second, like seeing it on the screen too, the way Bryce shows up when he performs, if there's two people there. Actually, I think one time we were both presenting and it was an empty room. It's like, yeah, represent. I know. Nobody had to know. But you showed up there with the same energy for those of us who were there, those, small group of people, to as you do for like an auditorium full of people, and like because it, and whoever is there, like I felt like when there wasn't a big group of people there, like, man, he's doing this, and how special am I that I get to be in the front row of this? And then same thing, every person in that sold out, auditorium feels that way too. And I would put $1 bazillion that I don't have, so it's really not a big risk. But if I had it, I would that you do the same thing, Erin. That like when there's 4 people that show up, the way that you give, like of yourself and that vulnerability that you bring, you would do, and you will when it's a big group. And God, just like what a gift that is to people. And I think that's when you know that, I don't know, you're doing it right.
Yeah, also like
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't doubt I wouldn't doubt the energy. I don't know. I can get airy fairy. So what does that mean, Bryce? But like you just, I mean, from our communication before this episode, and then like at talking to you thus far, like you just strike me as somebody who, if I'm a click with, like we're gonna click damn near immediately,
Right. Right.
And I, I mean, I tend, from one person like that to another, I just tend to be that way too. And it's like the odds. So, what rooms do I put myself in? How can I put? How many of those rooms have I put myself in? That usually correlates to how many relationships I've been able to build, or how many opportunities present themselves. Just like, like my recovery is rooted in 12-step, and when I get to, for those who know, like the 12-step, like the 12-step, we're not even gonna talk about that. But when I'm 12-stepping, like some sponsors will tell a person to like you go when you seek sponsees. And it's like, nah, like I just go to more meetings, and inevitably, like after sharing and sitting at tables, like somebody's like, hey, can you be my sponsor? And I'm like, yeah, man, come on, let's go. So
Yeah.
it's just like, the more spaces I'm in, because of who it is that I am. And I think the extra variable is that these spaces align. If I go to a bar, I mean, depending on what type of bar, they just opened up an NA bar up the street from me. I'm super excited about.
Oh, they
But
did?
like, yeah.
You're
And,
cool.
and
So cool.
that's a whole.
I
That's
know.
a
It's
whole.
really exciting.
Yeah. It's because I'm in Dearborn, and Dearborn, Michigan is like one of the biggest populations of Arabic Chaldeans like in the U.S. And
Okay.
so I didn't think about like, oh, like Muslims is halal, So I was thinking, oh yeah, they hip to NA. I went in there, I'm like, this is an NA bar. He's like, excuse me, what? Like, it's an NA bar. It's like, excuse me, what? I'm like, oh yeah, it's halal. My bad, but it's cool to see the alignment, anyways.
So
Right.
cool.
Right. That's super cool.
Yeah, but it's like, stuff like this is popping up all the time, and it's a lot of times we're on like the cutting edge of the community coming out and saying, okay, I want to take advantage of this. So I think it's only a matter of time for what you got going cracks off, and then I think that's a good like lean into like this bigger event that you're putting together right now. Tell us a little bit. What is it? Thrive Alive?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So Thrive Alive is going to happen September 18th through 22nd, right outside of Kansas City. My awesome business partner on this venture lives out there, and she happened to find this amazing summer camp, because finding the space we found, Like, we looked at a cool place in Georgia, North Carolina. We're trying to I was hoping to keep it on the East Coast, but it just aligned that she found this amazing space, the price was right. Um, and so what it's gonna be is kind of like a mashup of, like, a music festival with, like, a vegan, um like a veg fest with speakers, and also it's gonna be sober. So we're gonna kind of put all this together. Our goal is to have at least 400 people. That would be, what we feel like we're selling out. And then awesomely enough, we could have up to 1,000. It would just mean we'd have to rent some more, like another commercial kitchen. We have to get something in there and like more showers and toilets, etc. But yeah, we're hoping to gather at least 400 people, and we're gonna just get high on life together and have fun. It's all gonna be all plant based, so all vegan food and no substances allowed. And just kind of just have all different kinds of workshops. And it's kind of like talking about, as far as veganism goes, like the three pillars of getting into that world and just learning about sustainability and like the environmental side, the health side, and then the ethical side. And so, it's an opportunity for people, if they're not vegan, just to come and try some amazing food and have fun. Or if people are sober curious, they're like, okay, like let me check out a whole, it'll be Thursday to Monday. So like a whole long weekend of just getting high on life. What does that look like? Or maybe it's people, it's rare I meet another sober vegan person, but Liz, you are vegan too, right?
I'm slightly outside of the vegan bubble these days, but
Okay.
as much as I can be. Yeah, I had some health stuff that I had to dabble again, but I still feel very deeply connected to veganism. So I'm still super pumped that you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just rare. I mean, it's like rare to find both. Like find someone that's vegan, rare, find someone that's sober, rare. And then together I'm like, woo. So if there's sober vegan people, wow, you're gonna get so excited because it's gonna be like
So the name of this episode is gonna be Sober Vegan People. Listen to this and hit up Erin.
Right.
I remember at one point, God, I don't remember what we were doing, but I think my husband and I were talking about how we were just, we are not extroverts. We're definitely like, we like to get be around people here and there, but like we recharge definitely in our little bubble of home. But we're like, man, should we have more Friends? I think we had just watched the whole Friends sitcom series again, top to bottom in a week. I'm like, should we like have people who just come over? Should that be a thing? And I was like, well, I'm sober and I'm a vegan. Like, I was like, you don't really drink anymore either. I'm like, I don't even really do caffeine. I was like, maybe we're just not fun. And he was like, I'm actually really glad. Like, let's go to bed early. I'm like, okay. So I think it's just like you find your people. But I'm sure there are quite a few. I feel like sober and vegan are two like people that like feel very strongly in who they are, and when they find each other, it's just like so exciting. And I just think, there's a need for that. There's going to be people for that. And the fact that you're like, come one, come all, if you just want to be in a sober space, if you just want to try vegan food, it's not like you must, put your hand on this, broccoli stalk and promise to never eat meat again. So
it's a good idea. Actually, you might incorporate that.
You're welcome. Are you going to do the silent disco, or is it going to be full like music on stages?
Well, no, we're going to have, there's a couple of artists who I've talked to that I'm really excited about, but they're not confirmed yet. So I can't say who they are, but they're amazing. Yeah. And so we'd have some live music. Plus we have a lot of friends who are amazing musicians that will just want to jam. And then we'll also have silent disco. We'll have ecstatic dance. A friend of mine who's a DJ is going to be there. And then, what else as far as, the music will be, definitely some silent disco and some actual speakers.
I love it.
What does WOOP mean to you?
That's a good question. WOOP. So WOOP, because my business is called WOOP Life. And so WOOP started when I lived in Hawaii. My friends and I worked in the front end of customer service at Whole Foods, and he was in produce. And we were just like, whoop, 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 and turned into like this fun calling. And then everyone in the store just started coming up to me like, hey, what's up, WOOP? What's up, WOOP, whoop? And it just turned into like a fun little thing. And I was like, this is just fun. Like it brings joy and light, and it's kind of like, just playful. And I was like, what could WOOP mean? Like, what could that, can I break it down into something? So the first thing that came up was like world operating on peace. And then it just sort of, I started thinking like, oh, world operating on play, world operating on plans, on positivity, on, all these positive things. And then I was like, all right, well, I just want to help people have fun. Actually, it's funny because I used to work at this camp many camps. I love summer camp, but I helped out with this group in Colorado, Higher Ground Youth Challenge. And for several years, it was a group, we would take kids up to the mountains and just have these amazing like experiences of just seeing them go from being like sometimes gang members, like people that, kids that couldn't talk to each other. And at the end, everyone's holding hands and crying. We'd take them rock climbing and just like do all kinds of trust building activities and all these things. And I remember our camp director asked everybody, all of our staff before the kids came and said, okay, if you could do anything, it's kind of the question that many people ask, but it's the first time I really thought about it. It was like, if you could do anything and money didn't matter, what would you want to do? And everyone had these big, elaborate answers. And I was like, I just want to help people have fun and like enjoy life. And I thought at that time that was like lame. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone had these amazing answers. And I was like, all I want to do is have fun and help people have fun. And then it just sort of like, that was quite a while ago. And then it kind of came back around with the WOOP thing. And I was like, it's the same thing. I want to just enjoy life and help people to have fun and enjoy life and feel good. And then, so WOOP Life just kind of turned into this whole, like, let's get high on life. And so the world operating on peace, I still kind of hold that like in my heart. And I'll share, I'm not afraid to share it with people, but I more talk about, I guess, like WOOP Life, like let's get high on life and let's whoop it out. And have like my niece makes fun of me because I think on my Instagram one time I was like, have you whooped today? So her friends would say that to her, probably making fun of me, but that's fine.
Love it. You know that you're doing it right if kids are making fun of you. I just
Right?
feel
Yeah.
like that's like, yeah, I did it.
Whoop, whoop.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
So I like to whoop it up and spread the whoop. And
I love that. I mean, to just have fun, to just like be, what else are we freaking here for? You know what I mean? Like, then to just like have fun, to enjoy life. I mean, it's how funny that seemed like, oh, what a silly thing. And where it's just like, yeah, but it's all silly things. Everything we're doing is silly.
Right.
Like, it's all,
right.
we're not here for very long. And like, we just have each other. And if we're not having fun, then what's it for? And so
Right.
many of us think that like we have to, when we set down this thing, this, whatever the substance was, that the party's over, the fun's over. And that's why, for me anyways, for a long time, I was like, I mean, if it's like, I'm going to die from this, or I have to give this up, I guess I'll just die from it, because giving this up means I can't do life, and
Right.
so the concept that there's fun on the other side of it continues to blow my mind in a way that I hope it never stops, because like,
Right.
and that's your whole, like, for there to be someone like you out there is just dedicated to it in this way, it just makes me excited to be on the planet at this time with you.
Aw.
So
We got to
Yeah.
whoop it up together.
we're whooping, man.
All right, Erin. So before we get out of here, if you could go to any iteration of Erin in the future, in the past, or even as past as yesterday, or even in the future as tomorrow,
It's become a multiple choice question.
what version of Erin would you choose to talk to, and what would you say to her?
I feel like it's funny because I know you always ask this in the end of the podcast, and I sometimes think about it, but I usually just listen, to what the person's saying. But I was thinking about this earlier, and I don't know, it's hard. There's like two things that come up. The first one is like, I would tell my 7-year-old self that I'm like super worthy and lovable, and that like, don't ever let anybody make me think otherwise. Ever. And no matter what's happening around me, like what's within me is just so pure and beautiful and magical that like, just hold it and know it.
Yeah.
And then I also would tell my like, because I was kind of a late bloomer when I started drinking. I mean, I was meaning I was in college instead of high school, but like I would tell myself to not do it, even though, I don't know, I just feel like it's hard because like so many lessons came from it, but it caused so, I don't know. I would tell myself to like search out other things, and that like, just because the movies look really cool with frat parties and like, like all these glorifying alcohol things is a movie, and to maybe consider something else. I think I would challenge myself to try something else. Like, I wouldn't know what it was, because like you were saying too, Bryce, it's like if the Phoenix existed maybe when I was in college, or if WOOP Life parties existed or something, but maybe just
wish they had.
yeah, like consider something else. Cause my college was woo.
Yeah. Woo, not
like,
whoop.
yeah, exactly. It was poo if you do it backwards. So yeah, just some sort of like, I mean, of course, if I told myself not to drink at college, I would have done the opposite because that's what we do sometimes. But I think I would have encouraged myself to try other ways of having fun. And again, remind myself that I'm like super amazing and lovable and that substances are not helping. They're not going to help at all. And I can find all that joy and fun and wildness within me.
I love the intensity that you have behind that. It's like this like mama bear version that's coming out when you're talking to like 7-year-old you about how freaking great she is. Like it's, I feel like there's somebody out there that like needed to hear that with that energy. And dude, I'm with you, man. I would love to say, I mean, I'm so grateful for everything exactly as it went, as painful as it was, because it got me here in this moment with the two of you. And also, if you plopped me back there and said, do you want to do this the same or different? I was like, I feel like I want to do this again, knowing what I know now. So I think that is a very truthful and like, yeah, it's very real. So thank you for that answer.
Yeah. I mean, that's hard because it's like, of course, we're here where we are right now and it's beautiful. And maybe I am somehow helping more people having gone through my experience and now like providing opportunities for others to get high on life and realize it. But, and maybe I wouldn't have done that. Maybe I would be, I don't know, a treasure hunter undersea, which I also would like to do at some point. Some scuba diving.
That's actually
was that an option?
An amazing job. I didn't know we could do that. I need to expand my potential options in life.
I'm on the wrong side of LinkedIn, I think, man.
I daydream a lot. I watch a lot of movies at night and then like dream about treasures.
Yeah. So
cut.
Shut up. One last thing before we leave. I know you mentioned offline that you have something special for the listeners of Rise, Recover, Live and the members of the Phoenix community in regards to the Thrive Alive Festival. You want to kind of drop what that is and how people can get involved and enter themselves to win a special prize?
Yeah. So if you would like to come to our first annual Thrive Alive Festival, if you're part of the Phoenix, we're going to do a giveaway for 1 free ticket to come to the festival. All food, all housing, all the music, all the fun included. And what you'll need to do is give the Phoenix a follow on Instagram. And also, if you follow me at Super Duper Whoop Whoop, which will be in the show notes. And you can also follow Thrive Alive Fest. And just on either Whoop Life or Super Duper Whoop Whoop or Thrive Alive, shoot me a DM and say the Phoenix Thrive Alive. And then I'll enter you to win the contest. And I'll know more as we get closer, but I will, if you're interested, I would love to give somebody a free ticket to come and sober party with us. For sure.
Yeah. And you gotta follow Super Duper Whoop Whoop. You gotta follow Rise, Recover, Live, and you gotta follow Thrive Alive Fest and the reason we want to hammer down on that is because, like, you want the feed of the newest things that are coming out, and you want to be able to tap into this community and continue to get updates of things that align with you. Because if you've gotten this far in this episode, obviously what we've been talking about aligns with you. So why wouldn't you want to be a part of the drip feed of these new events and activities of these people that are doing these phenomenal things? So you got to follow those 3, and then you got to DM Erin Thrive Alive the Phoenix or something like that, and you'll be entered into the contest.
In the show notes.
yeah, for sure. And if you're in Miami and you just want to come to not quite a festival, but a smaller event, also follow Super Duper Whoop Whoop because I post all of my WOOP Life parties where we're gonna do connection games and get weird and get silly and then have a silent disco dance party. So there's all the fun happening all over. And I can also come to you if you have a big event. So I'll come bring my headphones. I have 100 pairs right now and I can get more. And I love leading connection games. And I'm so passionate about it. So I would love to go anywhere and everywhere.
All right, Miami, show up. My goodness, you got a ray of sunshine amongst you and not just the one in the sky. So yeah, show up for Erin's stuff. It sounds so fun. I wish I was still down there. I totally could.
I know.
When I visit. It'll be great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, we did
All
it.
right.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, we sure did. Well, thanks, Erin, for sliding through. I'm glad to finally get this episode in the can and finally get to meet you in real life on the screen. And thank you all, everybody listening, for making it this far and for continuing to support the podcast and for continue to support yourself and create community in all forms. And we will catch you next time on the next episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast.